So I turns to him and I says, "It's called Minecraft, not yours craft." And the guy just lost it. Yeah, everybody was laughing. It was really funny. Anyway, this is my stop. You can wait here. Whew. Slow down, guy, am I right? So All of Fabric 6 has just been released, and I gotta say, it's a pretty exciting time for modern Minecraft. AOF 6 is a kitchen sink style mod pack for Minecraft 1.19 made for the Fabric mod loader, which has just an enormous number of mods. At current count, we're talking about 300. As I only just made an overview video for All of Fabric 5 version 2, I'm going to avoid discussing a lot of the stuff that's remained the same and instead focus on what's new. So probably go check out that video as well if you want like a complete picture of the pack. Alright then, let's have a look. So as soon as you boot up the pack, you're going to be welcomed by this incredibly gorgeous artwork by Faku, as well as this beautiful design of all the menus, which I really like. Being a frog myself, I can appreciate the vibe that they're going for here, and I think they nailed it. The world itself is vastly different than vanilla. We've got Terralith and Biome Makeover completely overhauling world generation and adding in a huge number of new and updated biomes, which you'll find populated with animals and insects from mods like Naturalist and Ecologics. It's got upgraded villages and also a large number of these crazy and beautiful and challenging structures from When Dungeons Arise. There's been a huge redo of how the end now generates. Nullscape increases the world end height to 384 blocks and shakes up the terrain quite a bit. And there's plenty of other structures and changes to the world, but most of them I've already covered in the last video, so I'm just going to skip them here. We've got quite a few new dimensions appearing in AOF 6, but some of which we'll get to in just a minute. But it's worth noting that in addition to just another void dimension, we now have just another mining dimension. A super flat world that's solid all the way to bedrock, where if you so desire, you can set up your mining operations. While these next few mods were already in AOF 5, I'd be remiss not to at least mention them here as they're a big part of the pack. We've got REI and all of its variants to help you browse recipes, and essential for any mod pack really. Create is obviously going to be in the pack along with its own quest chapter, as will Britannia and Hexcasting, although not at launch because they're still in development for 1.19. Farmer's Delight and Croptopia add a bunch of new crops and food, and some of them are pretty OP. Spectrums in the pack, a very cool and mysterious mod that you can only get on Fabric. Bewitchment's making a return for all you devil worshippers out there. We've got Power for power generation and wireless charging of all your items. You can head into space with Ad Astra. Industrial Revolution and Tech Reborn have a bunch of unique machines that can help with automation. Applied Energistics 2, of course, for even more elaborate automation and well-organized storage. And last but definitely not least, Modern Industrialization, which is a full automation mod inspired by GregDeck. Speaking of, Modern Industrialization has had a really big update. There's now an MI villager whose workstation is naturally the Forge Hammer. That's fun and good in case of emergencies, but it's definitely not a substitute for automating all this stuff in your own factory. There's some quality of life improvements to barrels which can now be locked by right-clicking them with a wrench. And they now also display the name of the item inside, not just the icon. They've added this configurable tank which can store up to 16 buckets of 9 different fluids, which is pretty handy. But perhaps best of all is you can now copy over your pipe settings from one pipe to another with the item pipe config card. And this can massively streamline setting up large factories. The Spirit mod has also seen a really big upgrade with 2 accompanying mods, Reaper and Vitalize, expanding on what it can do. The former introduces both the Reaper generator, which generates energy by damaging mobs, and the Soul Beacon, which gives effects to nearby mobs. And Vitalize works by using souls to simulate mob deaths and generate their drops. I suspect it's because of the scope of what Spirit now does and the fair amount of crossover that has with other mods, that's why Conjuring and Deep Mob Learning aren't included in AOF 6. Maybe. Nobody knows. But 3 huge mods that have been included. Okay, are you ready? Deeper and Darker adds a huge bunch of Deep Dark related content. After facing down the warden, you can now ignite that mysterious portal that's in the ancient city and pass over to the upside down, the other side, an incredibly dangerous late game dimension. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, or myself even, so I'm not actually going to pass through. But the mod also has new tools and armor, which we'll get to a little bit later. The Bumble Zone is another big one that has its own honey and bee themed dimension, which you can access by chucking an ender pearl into a beehive. It has its own new armor and weapons and honey blocks and even unique enchantments. You can check out the advancements page to follow the progression, but just be careful you don't aggro Queen Bee. And then there's the Dead Cells tie-in Mind Cells, which has its own hostile mobs, bosses, and also its own dimension. Not about to spoil this one either, as this mod is so brand spanking new, literally has less than 2,000 downloads at the time that I'm writing this. But we will check out some of its weapons in a sec. Okay, then we've got this new multi-block structure from Brazier that stops mobs spawning nearby. You can check out its area of effect by just clicking it with a torch and running around to its outer edges. Ward Blocks adds these 6 useful area of effect blocks that are found in loot chests and activated with redstone. It's a shame you don't seem able to craft them yourself, but perhaps that would be a little bit overpowered, so. There's one that can speed up crop growth on your farm, there's one that gives you saturation and health, etc. Just a few other new mods that are worth mentioning before we jump into checking out the weapons and tools. If your mob vote ended up in the trash this year, well, you can fish it out and dust it off thanks to the appropriately named Mob Vote 2022, which brings all 3 of this year's mob votes into the game: the Sniffer, the Rascal, and the Tough Golem. Red Bits, replacing Redstone Bits, includes a number of really cool gadgets for your redstone contraptions, including this block that produces a redstone signal just by looking at it. It has pressure plates based on mob type and other things too. Thankfully, this guidebook here will explain all the new functions, so you can check that out. Trophers or Trophers introduce heaps of trophies into the game, some of them animated, which are like 1 in 1,000 chance drops from mobs. Some of these will also give you a temporary buff by right-clicking on them, which is pretty cool. And finally, in this section on big changes in AOF 6, Extra Alchemy is a Fabric exclusive mod that has a number of pretty cool potions you can brew. The Potion of Rewinding starts a countdown clock that'll teleport you back to the location where you drank it once it hits 0. There's a bomb one that explodes when the timer runs out, although it's probably best giving it to your enemies and not drinking it yourself. And according to the in-game book, if you were to give a splash potion of crumbling to a bunch of mobs, they're likely to give you a hand digging out a hole, which is pretty nice of them. Alright, let's jump on over to the garden, which you can now pretty up thanks to Sriya's Flowers, which adds 8 new flower types. There's Bushier Flowers, which was inspired by a comment from Scar and Hermitcraft, which lets you plant bushier variants of vanilla flowers. And Colourful Azaleas, which introduces 7 new types of azaleas, new leaves and wood types too. These things are really gorgeous, but they're pretty huge, so you can't exactly plant them side by side. Connectable Chains lets you connect fences and walls with iron chains, which not only look cute, but the fact they can connect at an angle is really cool. Bamboo Everything lets you craft 2 variants, regular bamboo and dry, of things like ladders, stairs, slabs, doors, trapdoors, torches. These devs have incredible foresight, because this isn't too dissimilar to what Mojang have been doing in their latest snapshots. Another Furniture, that's what the mod's called, has these really cute curtains that open and close. It has new chairs that you can sit on and look all cute, and expandable sofas for you and all your friends to sit on. I'm pretty sure these things don't have a limit how big you can make them. There's a variety of wind chimes from the appropriately named chimes, which sound really nice. There's bone-themed decorations from Bone Zone, which I love some of these names, which has this stone cutter here that makes ladders and blocks and pots and things like that. And even these skulls that you can wear on your head if you want to roleplay as a bone mage like Zimmervoid. And then there's heaps of new additions from the Supplementaries mod, like these new stackable candles. There's a couple of lanterns that you can hang from walls. There's 2 globes that you can spin. There's this playable flute, which has a number of sexy tunes, and there's a couple other things too. And just in time for that Christmas build, there's a ton of winter Christmas themed blocks and decorations from Snowy Spirit, including this cute little sled here. And of course, the pack still has a huge variety of blocks from existing mods, like decorative blocks and all the variants of macaws that we all know from previous versions of AOF. By the way, this list that I've got up here on the side is from Notes, which lets you write pretty much whatever you want, love letters even, and you can pin them to the screen, which could come in handy if you've got a checklist of things you need to do. Okay, on to the fun stuff. Or maybe it depends on what your tastes are, I suppose. I'm not huge on combat, but I do love me a good bow. And more bows restrung adds a bunch of new ones to the game. Bows that draw back super quick, there's a 2-in-1, and the ender bow summons a volley of arrows out of thin air. And you can store all the arrows that you're going to need, up to 45 stacks worth, in one of Nif's quivers. Knife's quivers. Nif's? Knife's quivers. Medieval Weapons also has a couple of bows, including the longbow, for those of you with intimacy issues. Although mostly it's melee weapons that it adds, with 13 different types of things like daggers and battle axes, javelins, a healing staff, and a few others. You can get a few cool Mind Cells weapons, don't ask me what this one does, from loot chests and boss drops in the Mind Cells dimension. And the Ancient City themed Echoing Depths and Deeper Darker mods have their own weapons and armor sets too, although I seem to have mixed up their weapons in this shot. Immersive Armors has a bunch of really cool looking armor sets with unique buffs that you should check out, my favorite probably being this engineering one here in the end. There's this new handy tool, pardon the pun, called the hookshot that's got pretty good reach and looks really ridiculous, but it's fun. And while these next few tools aren't exactly new, I want to talk about them anyway, just so I've got an excuse to record this next bit. We've got Piercing Paxels, which is an all-in-one tool that can be upgraded to mine a 3x3 area. Vanilla Hammers, which work kind of like pickaxes, but also do 3x3s. These can be a great tool for strip mining in the nether when you're looking for your first ancient debris. But as soon as you can, I recommend you get your paws on the steam mining drill from Modern Industrialization. Not only is this Silk Touch, but it can also dig a 3x3x5 area. And then there's this guy, the modular mining drill from Industrial Revolution, which is, though you can see for yourself. And obviously there's a heap of other stuff in this pack that we either just don't have time to discuss or I've covered in a previous video, like trinkets from doodads and artifacts, backpacks from Inmus and travelers backpacks and other things too. Any kitchen sink mod pack is going to have a huge number of things to play with. But thankfully, Team AOF always put together really helpful quest chapters that can help you navigate them. I should just say that I recorded this video on a pre-release version of the pack, so it's still a work in progress, which is why I shied away from showing the full quest book. Things will inevitably look a little different at launch, and even more so a few months down the track as more fabric mods are released for Minecraft 1.19, bugs get ironed out and gameplay balanced, etc. But to wrap up, should you play this pack? Good question. Thank you. Well, if you only recently started a world on All of Fabric 5 version 2.0, as I have, I'd suggest probably not abandoning it just yet, but finish off whatever you had planned while we wait a couple of weeks for the dust to settle with All of Fabric 6 and more of the big mods to find their way over to 1.19. But if you're playing on an earlier version of All of Fabric 5 or are completely new, then yeah, I strongly suggest you drop whatever it is you're doing, just abandon it completely, put down your knife and fork, walk out of the cinema, or quit your day job and give this thing a go instead, because you will not be disappointed. If you've got any questions or are having issues, the people over at the All of Fabric Discord will be able to give you a hand with pretty much anything you need, even your taxes. Huge apologies to any names that I've butchered in the making of this video, but many thanks to all those in the modding scene for the countless hours of hard work that go into making these packs not only possible, but also such a joy to play. Alright, insert standard YouTube sign-off message here. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.